Here's what's coming up on today's show.
Most of the time, we're just looking at helping you to see the path in front of you and also where those landmines are.
Welcome to the How Money Works podcast with Craig and Jennifer Moser of Maestro Wealth Advisors, serving you throughout the Triad of North Carolina for more than 30 years.
I want to talk about a sense of urgency a little bit today, okay? And if we got a little time, we'll jump into some financial jargon as well. But, I know that a lot of, obviously you help retirees, pre-retirees, but you also help a lot of business owners as well.
Yep.
And that's a big focus for you guys and something that you're really working on. So let's just talk about like the urgency and however you want to go, if you want to talk about it in the retirement standpoint or the business owner standpoint. Sure. But, what are some things that business owners should be thinking about when you're talking about, urgency for a business? Because you're a business owner, right?
Sure.
And it's easy to get sidetracked from like the things you need to do for yourself as a business owner because you're focused so much on your baby, the business.
Your baby, the business.
Right.
Okay. So I'll do business owners first.
Sure.
So you're either the key rainmaker or you also might be the key person in your company, and you might actually be the person that empties the trash at night.
Right, right. You're the CEO
business
and the
owners
janitor,
run the gamut. So what happens is a lot of people start in a business. Mm-hmm. You just figure out something that you can do well, and you go do the daylights out of it. You just pound the dirt with it and get the world going. And you're not really thinking about the what ifs. So, but what happens to that business if you, the business owner, cannot function? So it's kind of a weird feeling. Have you as a business owner planned already by utilizing things like business overhead expense coverage? I hate just popping right into that, but I mean, key person insurance, disability coverage. Why would you even think about this stuff? It's to continue to pay you an income while you regroup. This could also be said if you have a vital key employee. So let's say that you have somebody we had a client one time, and she had one person, and this person was her programmer, IT thing. He was incredible, and she was very concerned that if something happened to him, if he got sick, my business stops. And so there was a thing that we could do to make sure that A, we paid that business, B, we paid that employee until they got back where they needed to be. That was great. Mm-hmm, right. And then also, what happens if they leave? There's different things like that. So, if you find yourself in that position, it can be a problem if it happens. You may have never considered it. What's the impact of something like that happening? What would happen to me? And I will just tell you that we have expertise in this type of business planning and help you to make decisions. I don't want to get down into the weeds here because we just don't have time in a show. But let's say you're not the business owner.
Okay.
All right. So you get up, you go to work. You've been doing this for 20 or 30 years. Things are kind of normal. You're in your routine. You have your budget. Things are rolling along. And then inevitably, boom, something changes in your trajectory. So you show up at work and the boss says, I need to talk with you in my office.
Right. the dreaded talk, right?
Yeah. Or the insult, you just get a note or an email. Ooh.
Oh, man.
Punch. So it's tough.
Right.
From our perspective and knowing these things do happen, the real question is, how have you prepared to potentially weather a storm? Storms will happen. In your financial plan, so I'm kind of saying you should have a plan. Do you have 3 to 6 months of expenses, not salary? It's okay to do salary, but at least expenses saved in that old emergency account for, guess what just happened? An emergency.
Yeah.
They said you don't work here anymore, so you got to have money to pay whatever your cost is to have the essential stuff done. Do you have a good understanding of your essential expenses? What are you spending on the non-essential stuff, the fun stuff? Can I cut some of this out without messing stuff up? Basically, you've built a plan that looks out at least 6 months. You built a plan that has your future goals detailed. You built a plan that has an income goal for your retirement, a financial plan, guys. So that's really what we're after. That's the whole reason why I've had a CFP, why I do this type of work. Yes, we invest money, and sometimes I go and do my gloom and doom speech, but most of the time we're just looking at helping you to see the path in front of you and also where those landmines are. Okay? Mm-hmm. So just looking at that and saying, what if, and you lost a job? or lost the opportunity to continue to do your business, have you done the planning?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a great point, right? So either side of the coin, you've got to still figure out how to have that paycheck coming in. And, I was going to ask you about, if you do lose the job, what do you do with that possible early buyout, retirement buyout offer if that's on the table? A little different if you're the business owner, certainly, but...
Yeah, well, early buyout means maybe you got bought out, so that's a whole nother can of worms.
If you wanted to sell it, yeah.
Yeah. But let's just say that you work someplace and they say, hey, we're offering you a package to leave. And you're like, well, it could be great. It could be awesome or not. So it's the if. If you have your financial planning done, if your retirement age and year and everything kind of line up with that buyout, okay, how great is it to be able to accept a buyout option, get paid for a period of time, and it coincides with your already decided on retirement date and age? Well, let me do a story. I have a client who worked at Reynolds, worked there a long time, wasn't planning to retire for a few years, but had the money, had done the plan, understood the pension, and he and his wife sat down. We had everything lined out, and then about a year and a half earlier, they said, hey, we'll pay you for a year and write you a check, every month or however they did it. And he said, what do you think? And I said, pack your stuff, baby. It's time to hit the door. I mean, it was great. It was great for them.
Right.
But here's the other side of that. What if you're not ready to retire yet? So here you are.
Your financials.
You walk in and they say, look, we're doing a downsize or whatever it is they're saying. And they say, we're offering you a buyout. And you're going, I need this job. I didn't really plan to leave. I've been here for 10, 20 years. I have my groove set. I know where everything is. My coffee cup's over in the cupboard over there. I don't want to leave yet. And now you've got a decision to make. If you haven't done your planning, participated in reviews with your advisor where you periodically, not every time, but maybe 1 or 2 years, you take another look at your progress towards your goals, then it can be a very uncomfortable position to be in, meaning that, okay, I really don't know what this change means. And even worse, if I don't take the buyout, I might be sitting in the chair and then you get that other call, I need to see you in my office for a minute.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So you don't get the buyouts, you didn't get the check, and they're telling you to leave. I mean, it's not that mean. I mean, it's a business decision. I get it. But people have lives, and you still have to go on. So, if you take the buyout, maybe that would be the pressure to say, well, I don't know if they're going to let me go anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and take this buyout. And now I got to search for a new job because I am not where I need to be to call it a life and retire.
Yeah, and if you get hit with this information, Craig, and you haven't ever sat down with an advisor, and let's say you are in your 50s and you have no clue as to where you're truly set for a retirement trajectory, it's even worse, right? At least if you had some basic numbers, you have something to work off of, and then you can quickly, hopefully, call your advisor and say, hey, help me run down this buyout offer. What makes the most sense?
Well, like you said, retirement date. So the closer you get to that stop working for a paycheck date, it's just better, but if you're years out, now you have to dust off the resume and get out there. So the buyout part, the sort of two-edged sword on that is if I don't take that, maybe I stay at work. I'm not in the group that they were going to let go. But if you are in that group, you've got to get out there and find something new. Mm-hmm. So a new job search is in your future, and you got to kind of know where you are on your trajectory in order to have some sort of comfort level to move forward with this. Can I weather the storm? Going back to my first set of things, do I have enough cash reserve if they do put me in a position where I'm out of work? Yeah, you can file for unemployment, those types of things. But just having a plan together for it is more important than hoping it doesn't happen, I guess is what it's saying. And we can help you to do that. Jennifer and I have done this for years and years and years. We're very good at it, and we're not very sterile. We'll talk to you. We'll sit down. We can look at a set of numbers. We can do a written plan. You can look at that plan and say, and we will work with you to tweak, because there's not one way to do things. Yeah. There are several ways to do things. And what we want is something that will work for you within the parameters of success, of course.
Yeah, and I like that, right? It's like they're not trying to fit people into a box, but instead creating the box around what it is that they need.
Yeah.
If you're working for somebody, it's a different animal, I think, than when you're working for yourself. Because many business owners are like, I'm never retiring, whether whether you want to or not, because it's your baby, and you feel like I'm always going to work at it. But
maybe
you got to think about that though, right? Because Father Time is undefeated.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are getting into that period of time. So you mentioned the business owners. Let's do those first.
Sure.
A lot of you have most of your net worth tied up in that business.
Right.
So if you have business and equipment, and maybe you have some warehousing, and all of this stuff is part of your net worth. And now you're looking at it going, I want to retire. So do you have a ready buyer? Do you have a child that's going to step into your shoes and continue to pay you for some period of time? Or are you going to tell them you got to buy me out and here's what the check's got to be? A lot to look at there. Mm-hmm. And then the other side of that is, what if you're not the business owner and you're saying, okay, I've got to quit one day. Do I have the savings? Do I have the cash flow in order to give me what I need? And so obviously, what am I talking about? Sitting down with yourself, your spouse, a good financial planner. And the closer you get to stopping to work for a paycheck that date, the more excitement there is and the more anxiety there's going to be. So let me give you the anxiety. The anxiety is the fear of change. And my question to you is, what are your plans after your current work life stops? Really? What are you going to do with yourself? I hear it up front, well, I've got all these things that I wanted to work on the house. I'm going to play golf. I'm going to watch TV. I'm going to start another business or career. You might want to spend some time getting the last 20 to 30 years of your life a bit more mapped out. So this might be let's go on a short trip. Maybe we take a couple of days where there's no TV and the cell phone doesn't work up here, and you just talk about it. What is life after I'm not going to do this? So let's say you're a physician, a good one. Doctors are doctors for life, in my opinion. I've watched my retired doctors, and they're still doctors.
Right, yeah.
You get them into that mode, and it's like you can see the little thing lock in, click, and all of a sudden, all of that training they've had, especially if they did it 20 or 30 years, it's like a data file that just comes back on, and it's cool to watch. If you've owned a business, I have a buddy that was in the construction business, and I had something go wrong with a trailer, and I messed around with that thing for like 3 days. I couldn't get it worked. I said, do you know how to fix this? I watched this guy troubleshoot this thing and had it done in an hour, and I'm like, that was so methodical.
But he came right over to help you, right? Because he wanted that challenge of doing stuff.
Man, and he was awesome. So what I'm saying is you have your thing, and then you don't. So you've got to think about, what do I do when I grow up? It's scary.
That's a great point, man, because we all, as humans, we have to keep moving, and we need something to fill our time. And even if you love your job or you love your business, and you get that frustrated point where, like, I can't wait to relax and retire, or at least slow down a bit.
Slow down, yeah.
But you're never going to stop. And if you do stop, right, that's not good for aging anyway, so you got to keep moving.
No. Well, you got to have something to do. So how will you get paid is another question. Most people, again, you have a pattern. Hey, I'm going to set up my 401k because I know I need to save for retirement. What kind of account is a 401k, Mark?
What kind of account?
It's a retirement account. Yeah.
Is it a retirement
account? So all of a sudden, this animal that you fed for maybe 30 years, I've been putting money in this stupid thing. I've never taken any money out. I plugged. It went up, it went down, it went up, it went down. But hey, hopefully it's up right now. How am I going to get money out of that thing? How uncomfortable am I going to be getting money out of that thing? How much is it going to jump around? Do I have enough? How do I actually plug it into my checking account and have that little IV that goes in there every month to give me my paycheck? When do I turn this Social Security thing on? I've been thinking it forever. At 62, they'll give me a check. I need to take it right now.
Right now.
Or is that a bad decision?
Yeah.
Should you wait? And so all of this comes back to doing the planning. So if you don't know what you don't know, then you might want to turn that on early. You cost yourself a lot of money.
And if you don't know what you don't know, you need to call somebody.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying here.
Right.
But the truth is you've got to look at all of it and say, I've got to turn on some sort of income. So how much do I want should have been in your planning. And then the other part of that is what's already going to come in and when does it come in? So we were talking to a couple last week. He's getting ready to retire. Now, he's 63 and having some issues. She's not going to retire yet. She's still a school teacher. She's still doing her thing, and everything's good. But it's like, okay, he had a pension. Should I turn my pension on now? And I said, look, you have money. I mean, you have quite a bit of money accumulated for this R thing, retirement. And so I'm just going to take this much and put it into your checking account every month. Here's how I'm going to do it. We will do the direct deposit thing. It will show up just like the paycheck you're used to. And I could kind of see him relax a little bit. And I said, here's the range of withdrawals that I can do on this account and probably never know the difference, the amount that I can take out. If you take way more than this, you're going to hurt the goose. But as long as we're just taking those golden eggs, no problem. And I could see the little bit of tenseness go down, and she's kind of going, I see it now. It was the lack of comfort of taking out of an account that they had actually never even remotely considered using for cash flow in their past years.
Gotcha.
And it was fun, but I could see it. I said, if we delay this Social Security, he says he's not going to live as long as her, so I got to go with that. I said, if you pass away early, taking this Social Security early, here's how much it will cost her versus delaying it. And since I already have the money in these accounts to be able to pay you, you should let that continue to go up by roughly 8 or 9% a year, because it'll increase that payment if you delay taking the payment for a while. So again, you've got to know that you have the money to do it. If you don't have the money, maybe that's the only solution, to turn the switch on at 62 if you're done with work. So again, the planning part helps you to get in there and make sure that you understand what the good and the bad and the ugly are of the decision you'll make. And for most of these decisions with cash flows, pensions and Social Security, for the most part, once you turn the switch on, that was the decision you made. So we want to make sure that we did it right.
I do want to talk about losing our loved one, losing our partner, and actually focus on from the business side for just a second, if you would, Craig, because that's an interesting one, especially like earlier you started out saying, hey, if you're the key man, if you're the janitor, but also the CEO, well, what do you do if you pass on? What happens to that business with your loved one left behind, right? There's a lot of things to think about.
Oh, that's an interesting one. So not what happens to my business partner, but what happens to my spouse about that.
Right.
So let's say we own a business, you and I, Mark, and we've done no planning, and I pass away on you. And I own half of the company, and you own half of the company. And I was smart enough to be able to get my part of the business to where now you're in business with my wife, Jennifer.
Right.
God bless you, by the
way. poor person. Yeah. No. Just kidding, Jen.
What are you going to do?
Right.
She says, I don't know anything about what you do. I'm not showing up every day, but I do want my check.
Yeah, can you buy me out, or can you get
my check?
I get a check?
You know? Yeah. And so it's like, okay, are you going to pay her a paycheck? Are you going to run over to the savings account and pull out maybe $2 or $3 million and say, here, Jennifer, I'm going to take this out of my savings, or maybe I'm going to take it from the coffers of my business, and I'm going to turn around and give it to you, and you walk away, have a nice day.
Right.
How do you do it? So, I mean, again, I'm talking about an agreement. It's in a business agreement called an operating agreement. You do it with an attorney, and the attorney will lay out, if they're good, they'll lay out how you're going to decide what the business is worth. You will decide how you're going to buy somebody out. Are you going to do it in an installment set of payments over maybe 2, 3, 5, 10 years? Are you going to have insurance on my life, Mark, and I have insurance on your life? So if I die, I give you the money, and in our agreement, you're going to buy my wife out. How do we do it?
Right.
And so by doing this type of planning ahead of time, when something like this does occur, and it doesn't occur every day. Well, it does occur every day, but probably not to most folks. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that own businesses. But, if it were you that had the car accident, I want to be able to give your wife that check.
Right.
And I don't want to feel bad about it, and I don't want to cripple my business by having to pull it from that, and I don't want to ruin my retirement plan for my wife and me because I gave it to your wife. Okay, so I mean, there's a lot of things to consider when you're looking at what happens if somebody passes away. I never even got into the standard retirement planning stuff for if you lose a spouse. That's did I take my Social Security the right way? Did my pension set up for a spousal benefit? What's going to happen from taxes? Do I have all my beneficiaries set up on all my different accounts and plans and everything? There's a lot to consider there.
And that's happening to you too, whether you're a business owner or not. That stuff's going on too.
I mean, there's a big dynamic there. The business, makes it even a bigger thing. So, it's a great thing to have a successful business. You get to make your own decisions. You pull your own levers. But at the end of it, if something occurs, I mean, a lot of stuff could come off the tracks really quick. And so again, somebody that will sit down with you, take a look and say, here are the things that probably you need to consider if you want to protect yourself, and then decide if you want to do them or not. I mean, it's a decision, and at least and go into it with your eyes wide open how you're going to approach it.
Thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. If you have any questions about what we've discussed, remember, you can get a complimentary financial review with the team at Maestro Wealth Advisors by calling 336-448-1086. Or go online to howmoneyworksradio.com for other great resources and ways to reach the team. You can also check the show notes of today's episode for our contact information as well. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite app so you never miss an episode. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all the most popular apps. For Craig and Jennifer Moser, I'm Mark Killian. We'll talk to you next time on the How Money Works podcast.
Craig Moser is a financial advisor and certified financial planner. Securities offered through Avantax Investment Services, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Avantax Advisory Services. Insurance services offered through Avantax affiliated insurance agency.